Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Collectively Unhinged Therapy Talk podcast. Today, you are greeted by your lovely and amazing host. Hi, I'm Courtney, licensed marriage and family therapist, and with me is
Melissa, a licensed mental health therapist in too many states.
Um, Today we are talking about something that comes near and dear to my heart, currently. Our topic is all about stop defending, start repairing, phrases that actually worked in conflict. So kind of like the idea of getting out of trouble with your partner. Like, how do we get out of trouble with your partner? What actually works? How do we talk? How do we communicate during conflict? So I jokingly say that this is something near and dear to my heart because my husband and I are currently fighting. I'm currently pissed at him. Although actually not anymore. We did repair things recently, but we've had a recent conflict. And so, I thought, you know what? Let's discuss this because it needs to be discussed. I will also say, as just like a side thing, I've been married for going on almost 18 years now. So we fight. That's all a part of marriage, but definitely something that I thought would be great for us to have a little chat about. What about you, Melissa? How are you feeling about this topic today?
um, I'm fine. I actually haven't wanted to kill my husband in a little bit, so that's nice. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, we're all right. Marriage, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like, sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not so good. That's okay. You gotta roll with the
So,
punches and figure out what's gonna work for the two of you. But now that you've started the intro by telling people that you guys are in an argument, how much do you want to share? Let's make it a fun podcast.
I mean, I definitely don't mind sharing. Like, that's the whole purpose of this podcast to show how we are all collectively unhinged together. So, I guess for anybody who is interested, I mean, it was honestly like a pretty stupid fight, but I did get upset over it. I will also disclose that I'm kind of like hormonal right now. Like, it's kind of like I'm in my menstrual cycle right now, and one of my symptoms is I tend to get a little bit more overly emotional. That's not to say like what he did or like our fight wasn't justified, or it's just still a matter of like I have a capacity to be a little bit more elevated in my emotions during this time. So, with that being said, my husband has been sick. I've been primarily taking care of the kids while he's sick, but the other night, the kids were extremely overwhelming. They were jumping on top of me, they were acting like, straight monkeys everywhere. And we were honestly just both kind of like overwhelmed with it. And I kind of snapped at him, which he didn't like, and he was like pretty much like fuck it, I'm going to go to bed. And he left me, went to sleep, went to bed, and left me with the kids to deal with for the rest of the night. So I was pretty pissed at him for that. And then the next morning, he didn't wake up with me at like 6 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning to make breakfast for the kids before school. Again, left me to do that, although his excuse is that his alarm didn't go off, so he didn't know, and then I didn't also wake him up, but whatever. So it was just kind of like a continuation of that. That was, I would say, like the premise of like what the fight was about. Pretty fucking stupid, but like I was still pissed about it. So yeah.
Okay, but you guys were able to resolve and have conflict resolution in all of this.
Yes, we did. So I will talk about that further during this. But Melissa, I want to ask you, what do you feel like is one thing that you say to get out of trouble with your partner?
That I say to get out of trouble. I don't think I say anything to get out of trouble. I don't know. Maybe I'm the problem, man.
Or like
Yeah.
kind of like maybe let me reword this. Like, are there certain things that you say to help either reduce the conflict or to help make it like a healthy argument or dynamic between you guys? Oh my gosh. Wow.
No,
You're
I
doing
feel like
amazing.
I'm always right. I'm just kidding. No, I think it depends really on what the conversation is, what the I don't know, what we're arguing about. I do know, like anybody when you're in a relationship, what tends to trigger your person versus not, and you can kind of like adjust the wording, the way that you communicate, the way that you do things. Obviously, sometimes in relationships you hear people say like, oh, I knew this was going to bother them and I did it anyway, and you're just like, okay, well, you made a decision there, bud. And that's okay, but I don't know if there's a specific like a phrase or word. I think my husband's kind of like one of those people where you can be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, and he's like, well, I'm still mad, and like we'll walk away. I'm just like, all right, like cool. So there's not really anything, I think, once it starts in that moment that can like de-escalate it, because we don't like get into like all out yelling fights. So it's not like we need like, oh my God, like we have to be able to like de-escalate this conversation somehow. It's more of like a like we're arguing and like he's mad and like I'm mad, and then if one of us is wrong, we'll be like, sorry, my bad. And I think I'm quicker to like let go of it. I'm more like whatever, dude, and I just like let go of things, I think, a little too easily. Um he more so is like, how do you expect me to just be okay after that? And I'm like, I don't know, dude, we're married with kids, like just shut the fuck up and move forward. But that I think I lack the patience there, where for me, again, if it's, we got into a fight, we resolved it, all right, like let go, let's just move forward. He needs to like sit with it a little longer. I know it doesn't exactly answer your question, but that's what I got.
Well, I guess when I say that, like, what are the things that you say to get out of trouble? I think it's also where I'm coming from with that is that people do have the tendency to sometimes just like say the wrong things, and it's not because like they're either they don't care, or they're purposely like trying to hurt the other person or anything like that. But I think a lot of times it's because we're so focused on maybe like trying to defend our peace, or like what we're upset about and things like that, instead of actually trying to repair. And I think that there is kind of that aspect of people get defensive because it is a protection strategy. It's not a communication skill at all. It's about protection, right? It's about like that aspect of, maybe the fear of being wrong, fear of rejection, maybe it's ego, whatever it is. But sometimes I think that we don't feel like we are being heard or seen or validated in those moments, that we then kind of like switch to this sort of like defensive slash protection mode. And we're either just saying things like to prove a point or whatever it is. But I think in that respect, people can definitely focus so much on that and then in turn say the wrong things instead of actually again trying to repair. I know, like, for example, for me, to get back into my issue with my husband, to go back to what Melissa was also saying earlier, like I have a tendency to feel like I'm usually right about things, okay? And my husband feels like I am not always willing to admit when I'm wrong or apologize when I am wrong. And I get that. And I do acknowledge that sometimes it does take me a minute to be willing to apologize because I don't always feel like I'm wrong. I get that. I acknowledge that about myself. But I also think in that way, like I then have a tendency to focus on how he fucked up in the situation, and that like I want him to apologize first, or I want him to approach me to apologize or to talk because, like I feel like it's him. So like in that way I do feel like I was feeling defensive in that sense. Maybe there was that aspect of that fear of being wrong um in that situation. Never, not a fear of rejection of any type of way, because I do know that we're always willing to talk to each other, especially if the other person is approaching. We don't ever shoot the other person down. But like there can also be times where I can be like, hey, I'm just not willing to talk yet. Like I'm still too pissed. And being aware of where your emotional state is at too is also very important, because if you're feeling too elevated, then you don't want to be able to like talk to your person in that circumstance, because then you're already at a 10 and you don't want to be, like at 100 if you're already at that level where you're like, anything that I'm going to say is going to come off probably rude as fuck, or with attitude, because I'm already at a 10. So I will definitely say, like, on my part, like, there is maybe that aspect of the fear of being wrong, and then in turn feeling defensive in that moment. And then giving myself that time to like really process my feelings on that allowed me to be able to see that for what it is. So, aside from that, what do you feel like makes conflict worse?
Probably what you just described.
Okay.
Or like
Facts.
how to have a really toxic no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, definitely that. I don't know. I've never, to be honest, I've never been the type of person that's been like, well, that's not true. Not never. I did when I was younger, like more so in my 20s. It was really hard for me to admit when I was wrong. Um, and it would like almost hurt. I'd be like, I cannot be wrong. Um, Now I just don't really care. I don't know when that shift happened. I think for me, somewhere along the way, I was like, man, I just want to live life with like a little more, um I guess like ability to take that accountability and look at myself in the mirror and be like, all right, like it's okay that I messed up, it's okay that I'm not perfect, like it is what it is. So now, I mean, my husband would probably disagree, but I do think I'm quick to like apologize, and I'm quick to be like, all right, yeah, like I messed up. Even if it's a situation where I'm like just upset, giving him attitude, like I'll immediately be like, like my bad, like I shouldn't have said it like that, or I'm just frustrated, like it has nothing to do with you, but it's not an excuse. So I don't know. I think I'm quick to do that, but definitely to answer your question, what makes it worse is I think that lack of accountability and the tendency that we all have at times to get defensive. Um, and I don't know, it could happen for so many different reasons. It could be like our own insecurities. It could be like there's vulnerability in admitting when we're wrong. It could even be like sometimes people are like, well, I'm giving him, them, her like power when I like admit that I'm wrong or like made a mistake, and like I'm, giving into, I don't know, it could be so many different things. And I've heard like a lot of different things from people and from clients. And sometimes it's just simply a buildup. Like sometimes somebody's like, yeah, I was wrong in that situation, but like they never say sorry and they never X, Y, and Z. And then so why do I have to be the one to do it? So it like whatever, we can go down the rabbit hole of like the thousand different ways we can all be toxic, but it can be a lot. But really the main thing is not being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, damn, I messed up, or even not being able to listen to have a conversation to understand versus like listen to respond. I think those are the big ones. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I think for me that sometimes there are certain key phrases that can be very like triggering or very activating to hear. Um, I know that like one of the biggest things, especially when there is conflict, you're looking for validation. You're looking to be heard in those moments, and for your what you are expressing to be seen in by your partner. So I know, like, for me, one of the biggest rules that I have, and it might seem silly in comparison, but like one of the biggest rules that I have with my husband that I've had like from the get-go, I'll be like, don't tell me to chill down, like to chill out. Don't tell me that, because that's gonna, if anything, like make me go from 0 to 100. Like if I'm upset, don't tell me to chill, because like that's feels like so diminishing to me, and I don't want to hear it. So he knows that, and he knows like not to use that. But I think it's like just those certain phrases that make you feel invalidated and make you feel like you're not heard. Like if you're describing this is what this is a situation that happened, and you know I'm asking you to leave, like if I'm asking you to like acknowledge that, and you're like, well, that's not what I meant. well, it doesn't matter, like, at times, like, if that's not what you meant, that's still kind of like how it was portrayed as a result, so it's kind of like that idea of saying like, well, that's not what I meant, still feels invalidating, even if that wasn't your intention. Okay, like, that's why I'm saying, like, it's not like we're always at times like intent to be like malicious or to hurt people, and maybe you didn't mean it that way, but that doesn't change the fact that it still comes across a certain type of way, or that your actions still lead to, like, to certain things happening as a result, regardless if you meant it or not, right? I also feel like the aspect of like saying like you're overreacting, like that's completely invalidating in a lot of ways. That's like saying like to chill out. It's like you're overreacting. It's like, no, you're valid in the feelings that you're feeling. Yes, maybe they are very heightened in this moment. Maybe yes, we could potentially work on like emotionally regulating ourselves, but it doesn't change the fact that our feelings are valid. I mean, I guess I'll also say like if you're like holding like a knife to your person, I know that sounds like so morbid, but like if you're maybe like holding a knife to your person and like yelling and screaming at them, maybe that's like an aspect of like overreacting that I can see. But I think like when it just comes to like our feelings in general, it is important to know like our feelings are valid and they need to be heard. So I think in very little circumstances can we really say like you're overreacting. I think that kind of depends. I know that was like so left.
Yeah, I actually think that there's more than very little circumstances where we can have an overreaction. Because overreactions can look differently for different situations. The point is that like we should never invalidate feeling. Of course, unless it's like a life or death, like, or somebody's like destroying your property type of situation, then it'd be like maybe don't sit there and be like, your feelings are valid as you're slashing my tires. Your feelings might still be valid. It's the actions that aren't
Exactly,
valid.
right? Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we all have situations where there's miscommunications, we don't say the right things, we don't do the right things, we don't have the right reactions. Like that's all normal too. So, even in like healthy communication in your relationship, if it is a healthy relationship, like it's okay to be like, "Hey, I understand why this was such an intense reaction or why you had this reaction just based off of like experiences or things that we've gone through or whatever the case is, but it doesn't make it okay." So it's all like it's a big conversation for sure. And it ties into a lot of different things, but point is like none of it is easy. Like it's all pretty tough and challenging to say the least. So again, I think it just goes back to what your partner's communication style is, because there's actually a lot of people that'll tell you like, I can say this to my person, and somebody will hear that and be like, oh my god, if I ever said that, that would be like crazy. And you're just like, oh, okay. So it's more so like I think it's having like the respect, and maybe like the awareness to know how to respond to certain things. And then also, again, it really is just validating feelings. Like even if you're like, hey, this is the most intense reaction to something, like it's not putting our person down, I think is the biggest thing, because we go towards that a lot and we attack each other, right? Like this is something you hear a lot in couples therapy, like, well, she is crazy, she is out of control, she doesn't know, whatever, she is stupid. And it's like, what's the point of that? Like what are you getting out of that? Because it's not like productive conversation, it's not good communication, it's not like connection, it's not solution focused. So what are you getting out of making somebody feel dumb or unsafe in expressing their feelings, even if you don't agree with them? So again, another rabbit hole that we can go down.
I also feel like sometimes people have a tendency to go into absolutes. My husband used to do this quite a bit, and then I had to like kind of school him on it. But like he would sometimes be in this state of mind where when he spoke during an argument, he would like, you always do this, or you never do that, or things of that nature. And I would have to tell him, I'm like, so then these other times when I did do this or I didn't do that, it's like you are now, like completely like canceling that out and diminishing that. by saying things in this way. And he's not the only one. Like, a lot of people do have a tendency to do that, where it's like you try to like lump everything in together, and now it feels more intense, more extreme, because you're like, you're always doing this. Even if it is something that does happen frequently, there are also times where maybe like that person isn't doing that, or where you're saying like, you never do this. Well, is that entirely accurate? I kind of think it's something that has an ability to make conflict worse when we are kind of like using absolutes in that way. And then, like, the other thing that always bothers me that I would, also get on my husband's case about, although I've also had a tendency to do this before in the past, is like when we start going down like these rabbit holes, or trying to like attach examples and other situations and other problems or conflicts that have happened, and like now this is no longer about the conflict or the issue that we're having now it's about shit that has happened in the past. Even if we've resolved it and all this other stuff, now it's about things before that you've now attached to this and are now making it about that. I think that a lot of people do have a tendency to do that. I don't know, Melissa, if you feel like you've come across that in your own relationship conflict.
Yeah, I mean, it starts getting a little out of hand, You're like talking about one thing and you end up talking about something completely different, and you haven't even resolved the first thing, and now all of a sudden you're just like angry over
Like,
20
where the
different
fuck are
things, and
we?
you're like, how did we get here? What happened? Um, so yeah, I think it helps when you're like solution focused. But that's why it's important to try to not have, I know it's so much easier said than done, but try to not have like those conversations when people are so angry or feeling like just the intensity of those emotions in the moment, because you're not going to be able to have a productive conversation and like organize yourself, right? You're going to be like, is what you said, like somebody's like, hey, like you're, especially if you're using the absolutes, you always do this, then the other person's going to be like, well, you always do that, and then you just go completely off on a tangent, versus sitting down and being like, all right, what's the problem that we're having right now? How do we fix it? Is there even a solution? And then almost like when different things come up, either saying, yeah, let's talk about that too, or even saying, let's table that. That's a completely unrelated thing, still important, but like we're not talking about that right now. If we started talking about that right now, we would murder each other. Now that takes a lot of control and that takes a lot of practice. And you have to be in the right headspace for that. Really, what arguments look like, it's chaotic, right? In the moment, like it's just gonna come, is whatever comes out comes out. But it is okay if you're receptive to tell your person, or have that insight and your person is receptive to say like, hey, I hear you. We're really upset right now. Like, this isn't like, that's not the problem we're having right now. Like, can we talk about that after we fix this? And an ideal situation, the person that you're arguing with would be like, yeah, like, no, you're right. Like, that's literally not the issue right now. It's still bothering me though. So let's make sure we talk about it. Okay, fair. But again, not the easiest thing in the world to do. Courtney, I don't know if you've ever been able to accomplish that in your relationship. I can think of maybe like maybe a few times I've been able to do that with my husband. We do like redirect. We are like, hey, what is happening? Like, this is not what we're even arguing about or talking about. Why are we going down this rabbit hole? And we're able to like go back and argue about what we're actually arguing about at times. But even knowing what to do is not easy. It doesn't always happen. So I don't know if you're able to do that.
I am at times, and this is kind of like why my husband's like likes to say that that like sometimes he thinks that I'm approaching it as a therapist. Like, if anybody has listened to our earlier podcast episode, in regards to, I forgot the exact title, but along the lines of like what it's like being married to a therapist. My husband does give some insight on that. So definitely go check out that episode. But I am at times able to redirect. I really try hard to stay focused on the subject at hand, the situation at hand, even if like there are other times or examples that are getting brought up to like help support an idea. I mean, it's still very much about the situation at hand. And if I ever find that we are going around in circles or that we're going off path, I'm very much like, hey, why don't we just take a break? Like, let's give it like 15 minutes or something, like let's just take a break. I love you no matter what. But right now is just like not the time to talk about this, and then we'll come back. But it is important to be able to come back, because I mean, letting things linger and fester are definitely not helpful to anyone. So I think when it does actually come to what actually does work in conflict, I've been kind of like saying this, from the get-go, in like terms of like what helps get you out in trouble, what helps to de-escalate, is validation. Like, you don't have to agree. And I think this is where people get tripped up, is like, you do not have to agree with your partner. Okay. Like, you have your own thoughts, you have your own feelings, but validation, right? Like, you can say, like, I can see why that upset you. Like, you don't have to agree with it. You're not even saying like that would upset you, whatever the situation is, but like, you're acknowledging that that person was upset by this situation, right? So it's kind of like, again, even if that wasn't your intention, even if like that's not what you were trying to do, whatever it is, it doesn't change the fact that like your person had feelings about this and upset them, frustrated them, whatever it was. And like, you are acknowledging that, and you are saying, I can see why that upset you, you know? Or, like, just a matter of like taking ownership of it, right? Like, you can say that wasn't my intention, right? Like, I never intended for that to happen, but I can see, like, how it hurt you. I can see how it landed with you. And again, I want to be very clear, and it's important to reiterate, like, you don't have to see eye to eye with that person. You don't have to agree with them, but it's about just simply validating their feelings, right? You know, and then when there are times where, like, you are able to like be on that same pathway, like truly like be in agreement, then you're just like, you just own up to it. Accountability is such like that huge factor that can decrease so many different conversations if you're just willing to take some sort of accountability, right? Like, you're right, I could have handled that better. Even something as simple as that, I cannot tell you like how much that would entirely decrease like an hour long fight into probably something that's just like 15 minutes or something, you know? But it's like, I think that those aspects of that validation, that ownership, that accountability, things like that goes such a long way, but are also not easy to. And I can acknowledge that for what it is. And I feel like if you are in that space where maybe like you're really struggling to even understand, maybe that's also something you can bring up too. And like, can you help me understand this better? Or can you help me understand what you needed in that moment? Like, use it as a sense of curiosity instead of defensiveness. Like, if you truly don't feel like you understand, then just ask, just talk about it. Like, can you help me understand that better? Can you help me understand what you needed in that moment so that I can also understand? Because ultimately, like, you're not trying to be malicious, hopefully. You care about your partner, and you're coming from this place of like, you're caring more about the both of you being okay than about being right, because the goal isn't to win the argument. The goal is to repair the rupture. So I don't know, Melissa, do you feel like there are any other kind of like key phrases or things that you feel like can actually work in these sort of circumstances?
Again, the key phrases just really depend on the person, but yeah, I think the main thing is validating and understanding. You'd be surprised. It's like almost instant, right? Where like you're in the middle of a whole argument and somebody just says, you know what, yeah, like I can see how that would suck. Like I can see how I could have said that differently or done that differently. And immediately the person is like, what? And you're like, yeah, like I get it, my bad. Like that was on me. And people just don't even know how to respond to that. They're just like, I'm sorry, what? Because you just expect like an ongoing argument. Now of course there's limits to that too, right? Like, let's say that you're somebody that does it all the time and the person is like, well, you always say that and nothing changes. Like, there has to be accountability and also change. Like, it has to work both ways. But there is something to it. Like there's I don't know, just listen to understand, right? Like it doesn't say anything, and this is where I think the insecurities might tie in. Like it doesn't say anything negative about you if you're just wrong, or if you're just listening to understand, or if you're just validating your person. Like it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, and I think it takes more strength to be vulnerable and just admit when you're wrong than anything else. So like, guys, it's okay to admit it. We're okay. We'll be okay. Like we'll figure it out one step at a time, and sometimes you're gonna be wrong, sometimes you're gonna be right. That's okay. Just actually listen with insight and to understand. But yeah, that's all I got.
No, I mean, and I think that's really all there is to to say to this, right? Because it's like, ultimately it's going to be something that you're going to have to practice. It's never going to be perfect. It's going to take time to develop, but as long as you guys are working as a team in developing this and working together, that's what it is ultimately about, right? Because like I said before, like the goal isn't to win the argument, the goal is to repair the rupture. And if you're working together as a team, then you're working together to repair that rupture. And even if you don't have like everything figured out in the sense of like where to start, just start with like, pausing before you respond. Like think about what you want to say before you actually say it. Pay attention to where your emotion is at. If you know that, again, like I said earlier, if you're like in an elevated state, maybe that's not the best time to be having this sort of conversation, right? Like you don't have to rush towards making a resolution, but as long as you guys are paying attention to like where your head is at and then trying to pause before you talk so that you can like really take that time to think about like what you're saying and how it's going to come across. Because like sometimes it's not just about the words that you're using. Sometimes it's about the tone, it's the body behavior, it's your facial expressions. Like all of those play a part in this, right? But ultimately just give yourself that time, give yourself that grace, and as long as you're actively working on trying to make things better and to repair and to learn and to grow, that's the goal here. That's your goals ultimately. So again, if you are trying to get out of trouble in any sort of way, just understand that, maybe your mindset is a little bit skewed in how you're getting there, but like try focusing on that connection more than anything else. And if you felt like you really connected with this, or if you felt like this is something you've been struggling with this lately, please let us know. We love to hear from you guys. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Our handle is the same all across the board, strongmindmh. And also, if you are in an area, in a state that we practice in, and this is something that you are struggling with, please reach out to us if you feel like you need just further support in understanding these things better. Our website is strongmindmh.com, or again, you can reach out to us through social media. But until next time, stay safe and stay a little unhinged. Bye.
Bye.